Hey guys, this is SJ Football 16 and I'm going to be reviewing this week's games of the Barclays Premier League in week 4. I'm going to start with the early game kickoff between Newcastle United and Arsenal. I think the score in that is going to be 3-0 because the teams are not very similar in terms of ability, and Arsenal are doing alright in the Premier League at the moment, whereas Newcastle haven't had it so well. And I think the scorers are going to be Aaron Ramsey with 2 and Cazorla with 1. Now I'm going to move on to the game between Aston Villa and Sunderland. I think the score in that is going to be 2-2 because the teams are very similar in terms of ability and fighting relegation at the moment. I think the scorers for Aston Villa are going to be Gabriel Agbonlahor and Kieran Richardson, and the scorers for Sunderland are going to be Connor Wickham and Arne van Holt. And now I'm going to move on to the game between AFC Bournemouth and Leicester. I think the score in that is going to be 1-0 to Leicester, and the score being Gökhan Inler because Leicester have had a very good run so far, and they're a slightly better team than AFC Bournemouth are with their squad. Now I'm going to move on to the game between Chelsea and Crystal Palace. I think the score in that is going to be 2-0 because Chelsea's squad is better than Crystal Palace's and they're slightly better in terms of ability to win the match, with the scorers being Radamel Falcao and Ramirez. Now I'm going to move on to the game between Liverpool and West Ham. I think the score is going to be 3-0 to Liverpool because the teams are not very similar in terms of ability at all, and West Ham haven't had a very good run so far, and Liverpool have had quite a good run, with the scorers, I think, being Dejan Lovren, Joe Gomez, and Emre Can. Now I'm going to move on to the game between Manchester City and Watford. I think it's going to be a very interesting game here because Watford have had quite a decent run concerning they were expected to be relegated this season, and also Manchester City have had a very good run, beating Chelsea and 2 other small clubs. So I think the score is going to be 4-2 to Manchester City, with the scores being Jesus Navas, Yaya Toure, Sergio Aguero, and I think the other scorer is going to be probably Sergio Aguero again. And the scorers for Watford being Nathan Ake and Mate Vidra. Now I'm going to move on to the game between Stoke City and West Brom. I think this is going to be quite a close one because it's seen as a derby match between these 2 clubs. So I think the score is going to be 2-1 to Stoke, as both teams have had a decent run so far. And so I think the scorers are going to be Peter Crouch and Eric Peters for Stoke City, and for West Bromwich Albion I think the score is going to be the new signing of James Chester. Now I'm going to move on to the late kickoff between Tottenham Hotspur and Everton. I think the score is going to be 1-1, with the scorers being Harry Kane for Tottenham Hotspur and Aruna Kone for Everton. This is because the teams are very similar in terms of ability and are fighting for a Europa League spot this season. Now I'm going to move on to the game between Southampton and Norwich City. I think the score is going to be 3-1 to Southampton because the teams are not very similar in terms of ability, and Southampton have had a more decent run than Norwich have had so far in this league. So I think the scorers are going to be Jay Rodriguez, Shane Long, and Jose Font for Southampton, and I think the score for Norwich is going to be Wes Hoolahan. Finally, I'm going to go to the 4 o'clock kickoff on Sunday between Swansea City and Manchester United. As we know, Manchester United have had a very good run, however, that good run was ended by Newcastle last week, where they didn't play well, and Swansea have had a better run than Manchester United so far, thinking about it, with the teams they've played. So I think the score is going to be 0-0, and Swansea will have a well-earned point in that game. That's all from me today. So I'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe. So I'll see you guys next time.